Hello, everyone. This is Pamela Topchian, your host for Holistic Connections, Conversations with Holistic Practitioners. And this is a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and I will talk more about that later. This isn't about me, though. This is about Elisabeth, and I will let you introduce yourself and share what you do in the holistic healing world, please.
Thank you. And I'm so glad to be here. I appreciate you inviting me onto your space. And honestly, so my name is Elizabeth Vanderwalt. I am a doula and women's health coach from Canada. So I say that I always live in the hardest to pronounce province because it's called Saskatchewan. And I'm 99% certain it's like a native indigenous name. So
Yeah,
I love them all very greatly, but you guys, it's hard names to say.
yeah.
I always tell people, I'm like, just let me say my province. I can explain it, I think. So I work in the health space from fertility all the way to menopause. So I have loved birth, pregnancy. I love women, actually. I think they're just amazing. We're amazing people.
Women are
So
amazing for sure. Yeah.
I know. And so I got into this when I was 11 years old. I was really interested after my first period. And so I read all the books that I could, and I thought I'd make a great midwife until I realized I'm not very good at fast action on the spot decisions. So I was
Yeah.
like, for the safety and well-being of all involved in a career like that, I'll go and totally skip that. So I ended up actually going to school to be in a business major. I was originally thinking
Mm.
of running my own little like secondhand shop, and I was failing all my classes.
Oh,
So I had someone tell me about doula work, and from there, I kind of ended up going to my dad, and I was like, "Hey, by the way, I think I'm quitting university." So he was really much more chill about it than I thought he
oh,
would be,
good. Good.
because
Yeah.
he has a bachelor's in science. So I was
Hmm.
like, "Oh, what hippie thing is he going to be approving of this, right?" But no, super supportive about it. And I've
Great.
loved every minute since. So since 2018, I've been doing this work and I've just continued to learn, and I continue to learn to this day, trying to help women out more in different ways. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me.
Yeah, awesome. So I read on your website about your whole backstory. I'd like you to share a little bit about that, like what brought you to this place in your life. And I know that there's a further story than feeling like that you couldn't be, the on-the-spot decision making for some emergencies that might come up, or just something that you needed to think fast on your feet, or the story of your business major and all of that and changing. I know there's more of a backstory, so can you talk about that a little bit?
Of course. And so I have started this space to become a little bit more on helping women over 30. So my
Mhm.
mother, she was 37 when she had me. She
Yeah.
married my father at 35, and even though she was really close with my grandmother still was really old school on thinking like, this is something we don't talk about. And oh,
Right.
it's just like hush hush a little bit. So by the time that my mother was having me, she said it was kind of a little bit less on the knowledgeable stuff. So my
Yeah.
dad, he's from Holland originally,
Mm.
and his sister actually had a home birth. So my dad was comfortable, familiar with the idea of home birth
Hmm.
because in Holland that's still very popular. And so he's like, "Oh, you could totally have." Mom's like, "No, we got to have it in the hospital."
Yeah.
And she was too like scared in that sense and not knowledgeable that, yeah, it's totally safe to have a baby at home.
Hmm.
And so she said that there was just a lot of different things as I've taken my training and I've been teaching, and I love to talk. So my mother has to listen to all of what I have to say.
That's
Sorry,
good, though.
mom.
I think that's good.
But so from that, she has always said like, "Oh, I didn't know about that," or "I wish I would have known that." And so
Yeah.
when that was coming out, I was really realizing that that's the space that I want to help other women who are over 30 that, you know, need that kind of support as well. And my mother always had it that when we were grocery shopping, people would always like to say, "Oh, are you hanging out with grandma?" So I have a little of an extra love for women over 30 who have kids because it's like, you're
Yeah.
not grandma, you're mom. I can't tell you how many times I had to tell people, "No, this is my mother."
Aw, yeah, that's sweet. Yeah, and that's just the thing is women are not informed when it
Yes.
comes to birth and pregnancy, and all their options that are available. So I love what you're doing. And you have a YouTube channel yourself,
Yes.
and that is Fruitful Womb Doula Services is the YouTube channel.
Yep.
And there's so much great information on there. That's a great place for information, even if you're not in Canada. So, yeah, so definitely check out her YouTube channel. Of course, the website and everything. We'll have all your links below, and we'll talk more about that later. But it's not just pregnancy and birth, it's about, menopause too. And
Yes.
I think that it's going to be a couple more generations and it's going to be a lot more open because I am 59 and, you know, I was never told hardly anything about menopause,
Yeah.
I only talked to my mother later, and it's still not something we talk about openly, but if I have a question, she's happy to answer. I started menopause at age 50, so it's been a while now. But there's so much information, women my age and even in their 40s that just it's not talked about enough. So I think
Exactly.
that's so important. And I love too that you're also a certified women's health coach. So
Yeah.
it's not just being a doula, there's so
Yep.
much more. So are you helping women with home births, or is it in birthing centers and hospitals as well, or how does that work?
Well, I'll kind of answer your question, and then I just had something that I thought of while you were mentioning about people not having the information.
Yeah,
But the biggest problem with that is actually it's not being taught in schools. At school
right.
age of women, we should actually be getting access, like at the time of like when I got my first period. More
Yeah.
people need to be encouraged about that, whereas now it's like, oh, you got your period. Oh, great. Now you've started like the struggle of your life when technically there's so much more to it.
Yeah,
So
it's
that's
definitely
just
like
to
a
say to
like a
that.
negative thing a lot of times,
Yes,
right? It's like, oh, sorry about that. Now here's all this stuff to help you soak up that terrible time in your
exactly.
life. That's about it. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. I appreciate it, and I just love chatting with you already. And I could just tell you that, like, in terms of what you were asking about home birth, doulas actually help beyond. So I
Yeah.
have attended C-sections, I have been
Mm,
hospital births, and but I really just love to help people in all the spaces a little bit. So in Canada,
yeah.
we actually don't have that many birth centers. I don't know of one in my
Okay.
province even, but hospital home birth we do help with it. There are some doulas who choose to help unassisted births, and then
Yeah,
some who choose not to. So you kind of have to look around when it comes to that type of birth.
sure.
But with, I think most doulas, we want to encompass a lot of support to you regardless of what birth you have. Because we're not here as a biased person that's like, "Oh, you're choosing to do that."
Right,
Like
right.
that's not our role. Our role is really just to come in full support phase. Like have someone on your team that's like, yeah, that's for you. You want an epidural? Go for it. That's going to make you happy. And I
Right.
think that's really where a lot of times people have. And I think it's changing a little bit now, but where people are learning that, doulas are so much more than just for home birth.
Yeah, and I'll mention that on the YouTube channel, not the podcast, but just the YouTube channel, I recorded two videos now on after watching some of yours and coming in contact with you, I decided that and there was other things that was kind of coming back into my life, but I have some experience. I apprenticed with midwives. I was never a doula. I was never certified in anything like that. Um, but I attended several births and assisted with several births, all home births. So this is so near and dear to my heart. I loved that time in my life. So it's not about trying to convince women to have home births or trying to convince women to have natural
Exactly.
childbirth or trying to convince them to anything. It's all about supporting women in their choices and giving them the information so they can make informed decisions. So that's what it's all about. And yeah, you're right. I think that a lot of women, when they think of doulas or even midwives, they think of, oh, they're going to try to get me to not have that epidural. I won't have any options for pain relief, or, they worry that, like you said, something earlier, like your mom and your dad talking about it, that it's going to be some sort of hippie love fest kind of a
Yeah.
thing. And
However you choose to do it, that's your business.
right, right. And like you said, there's no judgment or anything. What doulas and midwives want is for you to have the birth. that you want and to help
Exactly.
support you in that so much. So yeah, it's so amazing. And when I had my second child at home over 30 years ago now, and I'm in the US. Um, so at that time, there was no internet and everything. So it was just like reading and reading and reading and talking to midwives and stuff like that. So we're living in a time that the information is out there for you. So let's talk about your YouTube channel a little bit and about your website and all the places that you are and the things, the information that you offer and share. So how did you
Well,
get started in doing all of that?
I started doing it because I love teaching. So actually,
Yeah.
last year I got a job as a preschool teacher, so it's part
Oh.
time, and I love that so much. And
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, I really do love teaching. Why am I not putting that into the world in the birth space? Because I love education a bit, and maybe it's because my dad was a teacher. It runs in the family.
You are a
But
good teacher, though. I mean, just listening to a few of your videos, definitely. Yeah. So
thank
go
you.
ahead.
I love to try to make things fun when I do
Yeah.
when people hire me as like a birth doula. I try to always make the prenatals fun with like some different games. And I actually just had came up with an idea of making like a birth Jenga almost. So you
Oh
could
my
kind of like
gosh. Yeah.
pull the blocks out. So I kind of have a dream of doing something similar to that. But really, it's just about trying to make learning fun to the point that you absorb it. And
Yeah.
so I trying that with YouTube. Like I'm still slow to learning myself. It's like a half year, almost a year project.
It takes a while. I know. You're doing great. You're doing great,
Thank
though. I
you.
love your videos. Yeah.
Thank you. And so, yeah, I'm on YouTube. I'm on like Facebook, Instagram, and I'm really trying to just, share the information out there
Hmm.
because I was always taught that, with the internet, we have the access to bazillions of information at our fingertips.
Yeah.
And I would like to be one of those people to help you. But oftentimes, even when we hire someone, that information technically is found online. Like you're
Hmm.
hiring someone more for the actual support of being in that corner. So
Yeah.
in the beginning of my stuff, there was a few people that had told me like, "Oh, you just got to limit what information you're sharing on the internet because you don't want to share stuff that you're going to teach them when they hire you." And I'm kind of changing the narrative on that because I'm
Yeah.
like, I want to give them all of the stuff for free, and then if they choose to have me in their corner to like give that support aspect, that's beneficial. So yeah, I'm all over the internet. I'm sure if you type up my name, some things will pop up. I hope not incriminating of myself.
Oh, I'm all over the internet too. I mean, you put in my name, I don't know, a
Yeah.
lot will come up. So I get
There
it.
and I'm grateful that there are those spaces that I get the ability, like even if there's only maybe 5 people watching or looking, I had the fun of putting it together for people. So, I really like the ability to kind of give that information out there for people. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you're working with somebody has hired you and you're explaining something to them, you can say, "Hey, I have a video about that up." It's almost like a review, or it's like they say something about learning that we only absorb a certain percentage when it's being presented to us. So it's a really good thing to have another place to say, either this is a book that you can find what I just said, you can find in this book, or you can find here or
yeah.
there, or I've talked about this on my YouTube channel, or there's something on my website or whatever. You can, have those resources to also present your clients with, and it's another place for them. So even if they've already hired you, and then also too, I think even if somebody is considering hiring you or looking through different information for different doulas, then having all of that up, it's not like you're giving away free services. You're just
Yeah.
sharing the information and the knowledge that you have. And I think it's better to have all of that stuff up there and not just say, well, if you hire me, you'll learn more, you know?
Yeah.
So
And I
it's
think I think people hire you also off character. So with the
absolutely.
videos, I've had one person that has followed me on YouTube for I don't know, pretty much since I've started. And
Uh,
she right away was saying that, "Oh, it's your personality I'm really liking." And when you talk like on podcasts like this, you can hear in my energy how passionate I
right.
am. You could see by my face. I noticed a dimple the other day and I'm like, "Oh my." But you know what I mean? It's those kind of little languages that we pick up with video now and that's why it's become so popular, I think, as well
Yeah.
for video. So
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. So, what would you say, has there been anything that has really surprised you in this work that you do?
Uh, oh, where to start? I think honestly, it's there's great people out there and there are not so great people out there, and it
Mm,
depends on who you interact a little bit with. I've seen a few medical care providers that have not, given as much attention to detail
yeah.
where it could have been a little bit better. And so I like to always just tell people, you got to be very strong when
Mm-hmm.
giving birth, or when you're trying to advocate for yourself. A lot of the
Yeah.
times you'll be met with resistance, and I didn't realize how much resistance there might be. Because I'm plus size, so everything that I have always dealt with has always been met with resistance in
Mm,
terms of my health. So I thought it was just a me thing, or like of my size a little bit. But I've learned that it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like.
right,
There's a
right.
lot of layers to the care depending on who you hire to support you.
Yeah.
So I think it's really just a lot of looking at like who can you have on your team that is going to be completely in your corner?
Yeah.
Who is going to be able to speak up for you in moments where you may not be feeling that up to? I mean, if you're in the middle of a contraction and you're being continuously asked about something or hounded on something,
Mm-hmm.
that's not the best time to ask, you know?
Right.
You know that this is not a good time.
Yeah.
So I do see some moments where it looks like there's more maybe coercion, or
Mm-hmm.
more like, I know there's a way I can get around some things if I poke now. So those are some of
Yeah.
the things that I definitely say I was surprised and not so surprised.
Yeah, surprised on one level, but then when you think about like, yeah, I shouldn't have been so surprised, but yeah, it
Yep.
kind of threw you off guard probably a little bit, some of that.
Yes, and that's why
Yeah,
I stated in the beginning too. Not everyone is bad. I
right,
maybe come off maybe like, oh yeah, she don't like doctors, but I'm like, no, 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 not all doctors are bad. There's lots of
right.
great doctors. There's lots of great midwives, and there's a
Yeah,
lot of not so great midwives. So I always like to tell people there's a balance in everything, and when I say things, it's not trying to this party's completely off the
right,
table.
right. It's just
So
people in general, no matter what
exactly,
profession they're in. There's people that are going to be nasty and there's people that are going to be really compassionate and
and
regardless of their profession. Yeah,
yes, and you got to find people that click. I always like to
right,
tell my clients too when they're starting to hire me, have you interviewed other people? Because
right.
sometimes you can meet someone and it's instant, oh my, we love each other. We could get along forever. I could
Yeah,
go for coffee with her. And then some other people it's more a little like, I'm a little more like off a little with them. Like
yeah.
you're nice, but it's just not
Just not
chef's kiss.
clicking. Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
especially since when working in women's health, it's a very intimate thing. Like
yeah.
when you're giving birth, it's very, very raw and real.
Mm-hmm.
You see things, right? It's a very intimate space. The same with postpartum when you just had a
Yeah.
new baby. Like I'm being blessed to be in a spot where you're telling normally no visitors, or,
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of those times that we're welcoming people, even like in menopause, you
Mm-hmm.
know, you want someone that you're really gonna like click with. Because
Right.
if the energy is off, it's just gonna feel a little, and you're gonna have so many feelings. Why add an extra feeling to that a little
Yeah,
bit?
you're right.
Like
Right.
let's limit the amount of feelings we're having about things.
Yeah, there's going to be some really intense emotions going on, really intense feelings and everything during that time, during all that time, during
Yeah,
pregnancy, during labor, during birth, during postpartum, during menopause, all of
yeah.
that. So yeah, you definitely want to have that sort of connection with your doula or your women's health care team. Well, I think that we should have said earlier. Um, so if somebody's never heard of, and if they never heard of what a doula is and they never heard even that term before, they probably get the gist by now. But can you
Yeah.
explain a little bit about what a doula is for somebody who maybe never even heard of that term before?
Well, a doula, I always say we have three pillars. It's emotional, physical, and informational. So
Mhm.
in the physical aspect, regardless of where you're at, it's just trying to help you where you're at. So if you're at postpartum, I help a little bit around the house, or if you need help with baby, anything like that, that's where I'm at. If it's birth, I'm helping with comfort measures and position changes and getting water. I've got a lot of water in my day
Yeah,
for
yeah.
people. So, it's just kind of seeing where you're at in the physical space as much as possible to help you and just kind of relieve some of the stress that you're often carrying when you're like, oh, I got to do this yet and do that.
Yeah.
And in the emotional phase, I always like to say I'm not a therapist, but I am kind of like that person that you would come to vent about something. Say maybe an appointment didn't go well, or I've heard it all. I've been
Sure.
open to
Yeah.
some very private, privy conversations,
Yeah.
but it's just knowing that you have someone that will listen to it all. And then if you would like advice or support during that moment, then we can provide it.
Yeah.
And then in terms of the informational, I mean, we covered that very a lot in the beginning about how I love to teach. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the pillars that spoke to me the most. But it is about that education that, when you have questions, you have someone that you can go to instead of Google. And they're
Right.
humans, so they'll kind of talk more on the subject than just a standard answer, or now how we have the AI stuff at the top. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of more human connection towards the answers you're getting about the information. So,
Yeah.
those are the three pillars. And it's honestly the Greek word of it means servant. We're not
Oh.
anymore, but we are there just to support you as, maybe a
Yeah.
servant was in the past. So I always love to tell people the history behind the word.
Rather than
Yeah,
being a servant, you're there in service, yeah, of
exactly.
the
So,
woman. Yeah, yeah, I love that. I wanted to ask you if there are certain midwives that in your area that you work with, or the midwife might, suggest you to their clients. So, how does that work for you?
well, I'm very unfortunately in an area where we don't have many midwives at all,
No.
actually. So, Saskatchewan as a whole, I believe the number is six midwives total.
Oh, wow.
And we have a population of 1.3-ish million. Yeah, so as you can
Yeah,
tell, women's birth options are not as high here. A lot of the midwives live in the biggest city, or well, a mix of the big city, but
sure.
Saskatoon. And so the birth count that I've been to with a midwife in this province is not at all zero. A lot of times for the options of women here, it's hospital birth or unassisted.
Okay.
So we have a lot of native communities still that are up northern Saskatchewan, about 3-ish plus hours away from me, and they actually
Mm.
have to fly down with a helicopter to get hospital care if they're giving
Oh my
birth.
goodness.
And when I first heard that story, I was like, "You mean they don't
Oh,
have anyone up there?" And I mean, I
wow.
get it; it gets colder up there, but surprisingly, I would, in my opinion, assume that more people of their own community would be getting on the role of a midwife.
Yeah.
So, I hope in the future that maybe education will be provided to the point that they can maybe create their own midwifery care
Yeah.
a little bit. But yeah, so unfortunately, I do not have that many midwives to help. I have
Wow.
attended some when I used to live in Ontario near Niagara Falls, and then there's more midwives, of course. So
Yeah.
I have got to witness the care that is given through midwives, but yeah, right now it's
Wow.
not too many.
I am surprised by that. See, that I'm
Yeah.
really surprised by that. Wow. Wow. So yeah, anybody interested in becoming a midwife or even a doula, that's the place to go. You're going to be much
Yes.
needed.
Yeah, and especially I think it's because we have a bit of a different rule for midwives than the States.
Hmm.
I think ours are only government trained. Like I think you have a few different levels,
Yeah,
where here it's you have 2, 3 universities that teach it at all. And if you're coming from another country like the US or anything, they make you recertify. And there's
sure.
a waiting list. And I'm like,
Oh,
seriously. Like for me, I would literally come up with maybe like a traveling bus of like, hey, let's all try to educate a bunch of women together and however. But I think the focus is more trying to get hospital births here. So that's just
well,
my little opinion on it. I shouldn't say too many opinions, but
no, it's totally fine to say your opinions because that matters because you know what
yeah.
you're talking about. It's not like you're saying your opinions about something that you have no idea
Yeah.
about. You are in it and you know about it. So yeah. And it just amazes me that still in this day and age, I mean, a lot of people think of midwives as something of the past
Yeah.
before there were hospital births and before there were OBGYNs and all of that. But it really, we should be going the other way around. We should be getting more midwives and doulas and home births or birthing centers with, a more supportive and compassionate care. And again, just like you said, I want to put that out there that there are
Yeah.
a lot of doctors that do give supportive and compassionate care for sure. And there are people that are just much more comfortable in a hospital setting. And that's great, So you're going to mostly the births you're going to are hospital births or
Yes.
unassisted at home.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very much
So
the case.
people who are doing unassisted home births. So I had my birth Again, over 30 years ago, my home birth was planned with the midwife, but she didn't make it. So it ended up being an unassisted home birth. And if you're any listeners and viewers out there interested in that story, I do share it in my own video about midwifery and home birth. I've got two of them on the channel, not in the podcast though, sorry. But but so when you go to a home that's having an unassisted birth, what kind of things are you doing? Are you doing anything differently there compared to in a hospital birth? I guess that's what I'm
I
wondering
wouldn't
about.
say so much. I mean, like maybe more on getting supplies if need be, like towels or
Right.
setting up some of the room a little bit.
Yeah.
The biggest thing when as a doula in an unassisted birth, you have to be a little bit more hands off, just because you don't want people to think you're assuming the role of a midwife.
Right. And they
Uh,
wanted unassisted for a reason. Yeah.
Exactly. So I always like to just kind of see where's needed a little bit. And sometimes people are very good at planning out, especially when it's unassisted, where and what your role is going to be. So if you know
Yeah.
that they have other children, maybe
Yeah.
you're helping care for them a little bit, or, just really just seeing where is needed
Yeah.
or be told what is needed. And it can be really some simple things. Whereas in a hospital, I wouldn't maybe get hot water or I wouldn't be
Right.
getting certain things differently
Something
done.
from their kitchen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Obviously, yeah. Yeah, or for the children maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And there's quite a few here, just like your case, that you do end up with an unassisted, even if you're
Hmm.
finding a hospital, just because people have to drive there. And a
Yeah.
lot of our hospitals are further away. I mean,
Hmm.
I serve in a 2 hour radius. So for
Okay.
some clients, if you don't make it to the 1 hour, you've still got at least an hour and a half to get to a hospital to give birth. And sometimes babies come fast. So
Yes. Yeah,
there's gonna be car births. A
there
lot
is.
more.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, is there anything else that you'd like to make sure that people know, or anything else you'd like to share before we go? I mean, we will have your all your links below. We'll have your website link, your Instagram. What else? You've got TikTok, and of course your wonderful
Yeah.
YouTube channel. We'll have all of those in the description below. But is there anything else that you would like people to know, or anything else you'd like to share before we end this today?
I think really it's just about trusting your intuition, regardless of where you are in like pregnancy or postpartum or menopause even. It's if you've got a gut feeling about something, that something ain't right, it's time to find a way to get out of it.
Yeah.
I always like to tell people, doctors or medical care team, we are fireable. If
Mm-hmm.
you don't click, fired. Sorry. It just you need to think about yourself, and I think
Yeah.
a lot of. I mean, I personally am very people please like. But I am trying really hard not to have that happen,
Yeah.
especially when I know what things I want for my body. So if you are trying to learn more about how to listen to yourself and what you want, you can't say no. No is a complete sentence. So I guess that kind
Right.
of all wraps into one little bubble at the end.
Yeah, and that's such a great message. I think that it is important for women to know that whoever you've had this doctor forever, maybe your OBGYN since, early adolescence, and now you're still with the same one in the same area and you're going to now have a baby. If you're not clicking with them and they're not, responding in a way that feels compassionate and supportive to you, yeah, you can go somewhere else.
Yeah,
Believe
it's
it or
easy.
not.
It's not that easy, I should say. But you can
Yeah.
do it.
You can, yeah. It's so worth it, especially for something so important as your whole birth experience. It's going to be with you the rest of your life. So, and it's not about controlling it either because you can't. I mean, you know as well as I do that some of the best laid plans are not always what happens. So you want to be open to change and you want to talk beforehand about what are we going to do in case of this or in case of that. So, yeah. This
Thank you.
time flew by so
I know.
fast.
I know it goes by always so fast, especially when you click and the vibes are there. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh
I
my
really
goodness.
appreciate being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for being my guest.